He was not of an age, but for all time. This tribute to William Shakespeare by his great friend Ben Jonson was written in 1623, only 7 years after Shakespeare's death. Today, almost 350 years later, in the age of the automobile and the airplane, the atomic-powered submarine, and the trip to the moon by our astronauts only a very few years away, we think you will agree that Shakespeare is just as alive and just as exciting now as he was to audiences 3 centuries ago. The scenes you are about to hear require only one thing of you as the audience, and that is your imagination. The scenery, the lights, and the costumes will be in your mind's eye. The heroes of these plays may carry a sword instead of a gun, and use words that may at first seem strange to your ears, but people and things that happen to people remain pretty much the same for all time. It's just a question of remembering that the heroes and heroines of Shakespeare's plays, although they dressed more elegantly and spoke more gracefully than we do today, still fell in love, lost their tempers, loved their parents, went bravely off to war, gave advice, and sometimes, regrettably, killed each other. Now, as Shakespeare himself once begged his audience, piece out our imperfections with your thoughts. Imagine, if you will, castles and drawbridges, forests and battlefields, a ghost-haunted palace, and a moonlit garden. We will try to do the rest. The scene that you are about to hear concerns an extremely spoiled and bad-tempered young lady, the wild and unruly Catherine, called the Shrew. Her husband, Petruchio, has sworn to tame this wild cat. He begins his training of Catherine by being very late for their wedding ceremony, kissing his bride with such a clamorous smack that all the church did echo. He refuses to stay for the wedding party, and finally carries his furious bride off to his country house on a sway-backed, broken-down horse. After a journey during the course of which Catherine has fallen into the mud, we find gentle Kate, as her husband mockingly calls her, begging Grumio, their servant, for some food. Grumio, of course, is party to the plot to tame her, as he insists that everything she wants to eat is choleric, a word that means both indigestible and hot-tempered. After this exchange, Petruchio enters with a tailor and a hat-maker who have designed and made beautiful clothes for Catherine. After this next punishment, which our angry heroine is forced to endure, the cure is almost complete. The play ends happily, you will be glad to hear. Catherine is indeed tamed and becomes an ideal wife. What? Did he marry me to famish me? I am starved for meat, giddy for lack of sleep. I prithee go and get me some repast, I care not what, so it be wholesome food.
What say you to a neat's foot?
'Tis passing good. I prithee let me have it.
I fear it is too choleric a meat. How say you to a fat tripe finely broiled?
I like it well. Good Grumio, fetch it me.
I cannot tell. I fear 'tis choleric. What say you to a piece of beef and mustard?
A dish that I do love to feed upon.
Aye, but the mustard is too hot a little.
Why then the beef, and let the mustard rest.
Nay then, I will not. You shall have the mustard, or else you get no beef of Grumio.
Then both, or one, or anything thou wilt.
Why then, the mustard without the beef.
Oh, get thee gone, thou false deluding slave that feedst me with the very name of meat. Sorrow on thee and all the pack of you that triumph thus upon my misery. Go, get thee gone, I say.
How fares my Kate?
Faith, as cold as can be.
Pluck up thy spirits. Look cheerfully upon me. Here, love, thou seest how diligent I am to dress thy meat myself and bring it thee. I am sure, sweet Kate, this kindness merits thanks. What, not a word? Nay, then thou lovest it not. Here, take away this dish.
Oh!
And now, my honey love, the tailor stays thy leisure to deck thy body with his ruffling treasure. Come, tailor, let us see these ornaments. Lay forth the gown.
Here is the cap your worship did bespeak.
Why, this was moulded on a porringer, a velvet dish. Fie, fie, 'tis lewd and filthy. Why, 'tis a cockle, a walnut shell, a knack, a toy, a trick, a baby's cap. Away with it, let me have a bigger.
I'll have no bigger. This doth fit the time, and gentle women wear such caps as these.
When you are gentle, you shall have one too, and not till then.
Why, sir, I trust I may have leave to speak, and speak I will. I am no child, no babe. Your betters have endured me to say my mind, and if you cannot, best you stop your ears. My tongue will tell the anger of my heart, or else my heart, concealing it, will break.
Why, thou sayest true. It is a paltry cap, a custard coffin, a bauble, a silken pie. I love thee well in that thou likest it not.
Love me or love me not, I like the cap, and I will have it or I will have none.
Thy gown? Why, aye. Come, tailor, let us see it. Oh, mercy God, what masking stuff is here? What's this, a sleeve? 'Tis like a demi-cannon. What, up and down, carved like an apple tart? Here snip and nip and cut and slish and slash? Why, what in the devil's name, tailor, call'st thou this?
I never saw a better fashioned gown, more quaint, more pleasing, nor more commendable. Belike you mean to make a puppet of me?
Why, true, he means to make a puppet of thee.
She says your worship means to make a puppet of her.
Oh, monstrous arrogance! Thou liest, thou thread, thou thimble, thou flea, thou knit, thou winter cricket, thou, braved in mine own house with a skein of thread. Away, thou rag, thou quantity, thou remnant! I tell thee thou hast marred her gown. Come, my Kate, we will unto your fathers, even in these honest mean habiliments. For 'tis the mind that makes the body rich. What, is the jay more precious than the lark, because his feathers are more beautiful? Oh, no, good Kate, neither art thou the worse for this poor furniture and mean array. We will henceforthwith to feast and sport us at thy father's house. Let's see, I think 'tis now some 7 o'clock, and well we may come there by dinner time.
I dare assure you, sir, 'tis almost 2, and 'twill be supper time ere you come there.
It shall be 7 ere I go to horse. Look, what I speak or do or think to do, you are still crossing it. I will not go today, and ere I do, it shall be what o'clock I say it is.
Hamlet, the young Prince of Denmark, has arrived from Wittenberg, where he has been a student at the university, to attend the funeral of his father, the late King of Denmark. Hamlet's grief at his beloved father's sudden and mysterious death is heightened by the fact that his mother, instead of mourning her late husband, has hastily married his father's brother, the crafty Claudius, who has seized the throne. Hamlet's suspicions that something is rotten in the state of Denmark are increased by his faithful friend Horatio's report that his father's ghost stalks the castle battlements in the vast dead and middle of the night. In a fearful encounter with the spectre, Hamlet learns the terrible truth. Claudius, his uncle, has murdered his father, and Hamlet must now avenge this most foul and unnatural crime. The scenes that you are about to hear take place in the castle at Elsinore, and on the platform below the battlements, just after midnight of the same day.
Hail to your lordship.
I am glad to see you well. Horatio, I do forget myself.
The same, my lord, and your poor servant ever.
Sir, my good friend, I'll change that name with you. And what make you from Wittenberg, Horatio?
My lord, I came to see your father's funeral.
I pray thee do not mock me, fellow student. I think it was to see my mother's wedding.
Indeed, my lord, it followed hard upon.
Thrift, Horatio. The funeral baked meats did coldly furnish forth the marriage tables. Would I had met my dearest foe in heaven ere I had seen that day, Horatio. My father, methinks I see my father.
Oh? Where, my lord?
In my mind's eye, Horatio.
I saw him once. He was a goodly king.
He was a man! Take him for all in all, I shall not look upon his like again.
My lord, I think I saw him yesternight.
Saw? Who?
My lord, the king, your father.
The king, my father?
Season your admiration for a while with an attent ear, till I may deliver upon the witness of these gentlemen this marvel to you.
For God's love, let me hear.
2 nights together had these gentlemen, Marcellus and Bernardo, on their watch, in the dead vast and middle of the night, been thus encountered. A figure, like your father, armed at all points exactly, cap a pie, appears before them, and with solemn march goes slow and stately by them. Thrice he walked by their oppressed and fear-surprised eyes, within his truncheon's length, whilst they, distilled almost to jelly with the act of fear, stand dumb and speak not to him. This to me in dreadful secrecy impart they did, and I with them the 3rd night kept the watch, where, as they had delivered both in time, form of the thing, each word made true and good, the apparition comes. I knew your father. These hands are not more like.
But where was this?
My lord, upon the platform where we watched.
Hold you the watch tonight?
We do, my lord.
I will watch tonight. Perchance 'twill walk again.
I warrant it will.
If it assume my noble father's person, I'll speak to it, though hell itself should gape and bid me hold my peace. So fare you well. Upon the platform, 'twixt 11 and 12, I'll visit you. Farewell. My father's spirit in arms. All is not well. I doubt some foul play. Oh, would the night were come! Till then sit still, my soul. Foul deeds will rise, though all the earth o'erwhelm them to men's eyes.
And now the night has come. Hamlet has joined Horatio and the 2 officers, Marcellus and Bernardo, on the platform before the castle battlements.
The air bites shrewdly. It is very cold.
It is a nipping and an eager air.
What hour now?
It draws near the season wherein the spirit held his wont to walk. Look, my lord. It comes.
Angels and ministers of grace defend us. Be thou a spirit of health or goblin damned. Bring with thee airs from heaven or blasts from hell. Be thy intents wicked or charitable. Thou comest in such a questionable shape that I will speak to thee. I'll call thee Hamlet, King, Father, Royal Dane, oh answer me.
It beckons you to go away with it, as if it some impartment did desire to you alone.
It will not speak. Then will I follow it.
Do not, my lord.
Why? What should be the fear? I do not set my life at a pin's fee. And for my soul, what can it do to that, being a thing immortal as itself? It waves me forth again. I'll follow it.
What if it tempt you toward the flood, my lord? Or to the dreadful summit of the cliff that beetles o'er his base into the sea, and there assume some other horrible form which might deprive your sovereignty of reason and draw you into madness? Think of it.
It wafts me still. Go on, I'll follow thee.
You shall not go, my lord.
Hold off your hand.
Be ruled, you shall not go.
My fate cries out, and makes each petty artery in this body as hardy as the Nemean lion's nerve. Still am I called. Unhand me, gentlemen. By heaven, I'll make a ghost of him that lets me. I say away. Go on, I'll follow thee.
In As You Like It, there are several pairs of lovers, and they are all slightly mixed up, owing to the fact that girls masquerade as boys, and for a long time nobody knows exactly who is who. Phoebe is a silly shepherdess, loved by Silvius, whom she considers a pest, because she thinks she has fallen in love with a far handsomer and more dashing young man. The object of her mushy affections turns out to be none other than Rosalind, the heroine of the play, disguised as a boy. But of course Phoebe, who is not very bright, doesn't know this yet. Listen to her, a typical teen-age brat, most unkind to her devoted Silvius, terribly silly about her latest crush, and although she is far from pretty, as proud and vain as she can be.
Sweet Phoebe.
What say'st thou, Silvius?
Sweet Phoebe, pity me.
Why, I am sorry for thee, gentle Silvius. Silvius, the time was that I hated thee, and yet it is not that I bear thee love, but since that thou canst talk of love so well, thy company, which erst was irksome to me, I will endure.
Loose now and then a scattered smile, and that I'll live upon.
Know'st thou the youth that spoke to me erewhile?
Well, not very well, but I have met him oft.
Think not I love him, though I ask for him. 'Tis but a peevish boy. Yet he talks well. But what care I for words? Yet words do well when he that speaks them pleases those that hear. It is a pretty youth, not very pretty, but sure he's proud, and yet his pride becomes him. He'll make a proper man. The best thing in him is his complexion, and faster than his tongue did make offence, his eye did heal it up. He is not very tall, yet for his years he's tall. His leg is but so, and yet 'tis well. Oh, there was a pretty redness in his lip, a little riper and more lusty red than that mixed in his cheek. 'Twas just the difference betwixt the constant red and mingled damask. There be some women, Silvius, had they marked him in parcels as I did, would have gone near to fall in love with him, but for my part I love him not, nor hate him not. And yet I have more cause to hate him than to love him, for what had he to do to chide at me? He said mine eyes were black, and my hair black, and now I'm remembered, scorned at me. I marvel why I answered not again. But that's all one. Omittance is no quittance. I'll write to him a very taunting letter, and thou shalt bear it, wilt thou, Silvius?
Oh, Phoebe, with all my heart.
I'll write it straight. The matter's in my head and in my heart. I will be bitter with him, and passing short. Go with me, Silvius.
Young King Henry V, the wild and reckless Prince Hal of Shakespeare's Henry IV plays, has now become an ideal leader, educated, modest, religious, and devoted to his fellow man. He has invaded France in order to claim the French throne, mistakenly thought to be England's rightful due, since Henry's ancestors had held lands in that country. He has attacked France in 1415, thus reopening the 100 Years' War, and defeated the French forces at Agincourt, one of the most famous battles in history. Before Agincourt, however, Henry and his followers had to lay siege to the walled city of Harfleur, a battle which left Henry and his men exhausted and close to starvation. Imagine, if you will, the brave and handsome young king rallying his weary troops to attack once again and to secure the small breakthrough they have already attained.
Once more unto the breach, dear friends, once more, or close up the wall with our English dead. In peace, there's nothing so becomes a man as modest stillness and humility. But when the blast of war blows in our ears, then imitate the action of the tiger, stiffen the sinews, summon up the blood, disguise fair nature with hard-favored rage. Then lend the eye a terrible aspect, let it pry through the portage of the head like the brass cannon. Now set the teeth, and stretch the nostril wide, hold hard the breath, and bend up every spirit to his full height. On, on, you noblest English, whose blood is fet from fathers of war-proof. Be copy now to men of grosser blood, and teach them how to war. And you, good yeomen, whose limbs were made in England, show us here the mettle of your pasture. Let us swear that you are worth your breeding, which I doubt not. For there is none of you so mean and base that hath not noble luster in your eyes. I see you stand like greyhounds in the slip, straining upon the start. The game's afoot. Follow your spirit, and upon this charge cry, God for Harry, England, and St. George!